Welcome back to the Tradesman Garage. I'm Justin, and you've already seen how to make the Shapeoko. We put it together in the last video, but now I'm going to show you how we made the table for it and that enclosure box. Come check it out.
All right, to start off the build, I used number 2 yellow pine 4x4s from Lowe's. I grabbed 2 8-footers and ended up cutting out 4 pieces at 30 inches a piece. With the casters that I have, they're about 6.5-ish inches high. And then you add the top plywood piece we're gonna put on there. It comes out to 38 inches total. That can be adjusted depending on how high you want your table. But for the rest of this, I just ended up cutting down a bunch of studs. I ripped off one edge to make a flat edge for the top to sit on. That way everything's level and nothing's kind of bowed over. It keeps a tighter fit as well. So what I did here was I took those 2x4s that I ripped and I cut them down to create the frame. My total table size was 60 inches wide by 48 inches deep and about 38 inches high in total measurements. So for the 2 short 2x4s here, you're going to cut those down to 45 inches, and then you're going to toe joint those up against the other sides around those 4x4s that are 60 inches long. That'll give you your 48 by 60 profile. Now, I would drill the pocket holes before you attach the frame. I didn't do that, so it was a little bit tougher to do it while it was already attached, but it's all the same, it works. Here I just added 2 45-inch long 2x4s for center supports. Pocket screwed everything down on top of the top, which was 48 inches wide by 60 inches long to fit the profile. I added heavy-duty 6-inch casters that I got from Lowe's to support more weight. And then I just attached everything kind of in and out of place. This was made for my specific liking. You can make the base of this table however you want, but here I made a little cubby area on the left-hand side, which is that little thinner spot. And then I made an extra pieces little cubby, which ends up being really handy for extra pieces of MDF or plywood pieces or even just scraps that you have. I made it just high enough so I could fit that little pink car underneath it. I wanted to still be able to use the garage to hold other things and the kids' toys, so kind of just, again, built this around my liking. Do it however you want. So after I created this little rough frame here, I cut down some pieces of CDX just to fit those spots to make the cubby holes in the bins. Once those were complete, the base is basically done. You don't have to really finish it like I did, but I wanted it to match everything in the shop. And then the 60-inch wide profile for this is so it can fit right there between my steps and the garage door wall. Again, everything's going to be measured for your setting. Mine was just so happened that it worked out perfect for that area. So after that, I used a flush trim bit on my router, cleaned up the edges, that way I can fit some trim pieces. I used 1x4 premium pine, a little bit harder pine. It makes the edges more durable, finishes the product up, looks a little nicer. Not necessary for shop furniture, but I just did it since I had some on hand. So here's what it looks like after I painted it and then added 4 coats of Spar urethane. Not only did I want to protect it, but it also brings out the grain. That maple plywood looks pretty nice here. Too bad it's going to be covered up. Now for the hard part, this is where I started building the box for it. And this box gave me hell because I needed it to fit on top of the base, but I didn't want it to be too small or too big to fit the Shapeoko in it. So these measurements were very, very tight. So I suggest you give yourself a little more wiggle room if you have the space in the garage. So for the back panel, I cut one board that was 48 inches in width by 30 inches high. Then for the window side that you see with the panel, I had to rip these boards down from a 47-inch sheet. So each little piece is 7 inches and 1/4. The other one on the bottom would be 7 3/4. And then these 2 smaller ones that go vertical up and down, those are only 4 inches wide by 14.5 inches in length. I created a rabbet around the edges of this window and then slipped in a piece of plexiglass to fit it. secured it with silicone, and stuck it all together. After that, I attached it to the top. So I did this in reverse, and you'll see what I'm talking about here later at the end of the video. I put the back panel on, I put the window panel on, and then I put that side panel into place. I tested it out with some LED lights, liked what I saw, and I began to build the doors. This was a bit trickier. I kind of built it the same way I did the window side, except both doors are 24 inches wide, and I cut 2 middle strips. So the 2 middle strips are 14.5 inches in length by 3 3/4 inches wide, with a rabbet all the way around it. The top part would be 8 1/4 inches wide by 24 inches long, and the bottom part is 7 3/4 inches in width by 24 inches long. Again, I'll add all of these measurements in the description below. But you do the doors twice, so make 2 exact replicas. Rabbet around the inside for that window to sit in, so another piece of plexiglass using silicone. Snap it into place, and I recommend using either some staples or some small nails to hold that glass while it dries. Cool thing about the plexiglass, you can cut it on the table saw with pretty much with ease, as long as your blade is set to a safe working distance, so be careful with your fingers here. Again, here I'm just doing the rabbets for each part of that window. I set some spots on the back side of it to figure out where I needed that to go. Dropped it in with a rabbeting bit. Used pocket holes to hold everything together. It gives it a cleaner look and a pretty good hold. I'm not really putting any weight on the doors, so you should be good with pocket holes. Once I got that done, sanded everything down, used the chisel to get all the extra pieces out of the way. And then the assembly process started. The doors were probably the hardest part, just based on how I built them. If I had to do this again, I probably wouldn't do it this way. I'd more do like a tongue and groove kind of setting, but I was in a hurry. I made it as quick as I could. So screwing these together, you're going to want to have some sort of clamp to hold them in place to stop them from moving, unless you have somebody helping you out. Holding them in place is pertinent here, and make sure you glue these joints together, otherwise they will pop off and you're just going to have a headache to deal with down the road. That rabbet joint you're looking at there is only about 1/4 inch wide. I recommend doing about 1/2 inch and cutting your plexiglass a little bit bigger than what I did. After that, I just used a round over bit just for an aesthetic. It's not necessary, but I tried to make it look as clean as I could. Cleaned everything up, added the glass to it, used some silicone after I had sanded it down, and the doors were pretty much complete. All I had to do was add the hardware. And just to be clear, you want to have those pocket holes on the inside of the doors, not the outside. So be careful on your hinge placement whenever you get to screwing and drilling those into place. Here I'm just using a Kreg hinge kit. Use some overlay hinges and put them into place. Use 2 per door. You could go with 3 in the center. I didn't think it was necessary. There's not enough weight for it. But those overlay hinges are really easy to adjust, and they trim out almost perfect from top to bottom. When I was done with that, I drilled a hole at the top right and ran my piping in for my dust collection. And then I added another smaller hose down there in the right-hand side of the machine. Those cables run as power to the unit for the router. And then on the bottom left-hand side of the unit, I had the cables that go from the motherboard to the computer. I held everything up top as far as the dust collection is concerned with some straps, added some LED lights for effect and lighting, and it's pretty much complete.
Well, there you have it. That's how I built my table, rolling table for my Shapeoko 3 XXL, as well as the dust collection sound reduction box cover, basically for the full enclosure. I'd say the only thing that I would change on this is this board here. These are going with the grain, which looks pretty dang good, but these ones here, I actually went with the cross grain pattern for some reason. I don't know where I messed up in that part, but mistakes were made there. And the other part would be this nasty side here. So I made a critical error in my judgment and actually made my pocket holes on the sidewall. So when I put the first pocket through the sidewall, it actually came and blew out this side top board. What I should have done was did my pocket holes on the top of this board, going down at an angle, right, and into the sidewalls to hold that in place. I didn't think of that. I was kind of in a rush to make it. So how I counteracted that is I just put that little square 1x1 or 2x2, whatever you want to put there. Just something to support that corner. And I screwed in from the top and the sides. That was done off camera. Big mistake, not that big of a deal. Just shop furniture again. But that is one of the bigger things that I would have changed. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Should I paint this that blue? Should I leave it this maple color? I might actually even put a trim piece up here. I don't know. It's, again, just shop furniture. It needs to be functional, but I don't want to look too bad at the same time. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and more videos are soon to come. Check them out.